You are about to take a trip back in time to a world that existed before Prehistoric Park. This is an epic adventure into the minds of the team who dared to imagine the impossible. Journey with us through the making of Prehistoric Park and learn the secrets of the series from the people who refuse to let sleeping dinosaurs lie.
Prehistoric Park is not a zoo. What Prehistoric Park is, it's like the ultimate wildlife sanctuary. Sanctuary where we're not just kind of bringing, giant pandas back from the brink, we're actually looking after extinct animals. So it's kind of the most incredible wildlife conservation project you can imagine. There's an adage that conservationists use, which is, extinction is forever. So we sort of turned that a little bit on its head and thought, well, what if extinction didn't have to be forever? What if you could actually bring back the creatures that we've lost over the sort of, billions of years since life began? And that was the sort of starting point. And then you start thinking, well, how do we bring them back? We travel back in time. And then when we've got them, how do we look after them?
Once the big brains had the concept for the series, it was time to find an explorer who could cope with these perilous environments. They needed a person who could deal with being charged at by a massive dinosaur, or 10. That person was Nigel Marvin.
I think every zoologist, they would love to go back in time, and ever since I've been knee-high to a grasshopper, I've thought how fantastic it would be to see dinosaurs. I love living reptiles, but just imagine finding a Deinosuchus, that's a 65-foot crocodile, and amazing things that lived in the past, and to go back and see them and to bring them back to the present day, every naturalist's dream.
But the team now had what seemed like an impossible obstacle to overcome. How on earth were they going to travel back in time?
Einstein always made a big deal about, space and time, and wouldn't it be difficult to time travel? And I think in reality, he's sort of knew, really, like we do now, that it's actually quite simple. You just need a stick with some lights on it. And you stick that in the ground, time portal comes up, and you go back in time. There's really nothing more to it. So that's what we did.
Come on, T-Rex.
Once the team had the Nobel Prize-winning time travel solution in hand, they had another tricky task. They had to find the perfect location for Prehistoric Park.
We recce'd lots of different kinds of zoos and sanctuaries to get our ideas from, because it was really important that the audience don't watch Prehistoric Park and feel sorry that these creatures have come from wonderfully open landscapes 65 million years ago to a tiny little pen. That would be really cruel. So we worked very hard at creating a place that we thought prehistoric animals would like to be.
What it needed a subtropical climate. Lots of the creatures we were bringing back were reptiles. They're cold-blooded. They rely on external sources of heat. We needed the right mosaic of habitats where there were big cliffs surrounding the park. So if animals did escape, which, fingers crossed, they won't, if they do escape, they'll be kept in by the geography.
These unusual creatures would have unusual problems. Who was going to make sure they stayed healthy?
They advertised in a proper veterinary journal, a scientific journal, and it was in with all the job ads for, like, a horse vet and a dog vet, and it was a really good ad. And it said, I think it said, do you want to be a dinosaur vet? And I thought, that sounds quite cool.
If looking after their well-being was going to be hard, running the park would be a seemingly impossible task. With thousands of tons of lizard heading their way, the team were in desperate need of an actor to play Bob, the friendly park keeper.
Can you get a 10-foot pool down the bottom of the paddock? Remember, check everything. This is home to a dangerous creature.
What sort of person were they looking at to play Bob? Well, there's a question. I think they wanted someone good-looking, suave, debonair. No, with avuncular quality, somebody warm, someone that had an interest in the history of the dinosaurs, someone with a genuine love of animals of all sorts. someone that liked the outdoors, liked the sweltering heat of South Africa. Just basically me, I think.
It's not always totally serious around Bob. Things go wrong around Bob, and he's the kind of, you know, the guy that has to run around fixing it. So there's a little, you know, with Bob, we used to play a bit.
Bob the park keeper would deal with creatures such as the troublesome Titanosaur and Matilda and Terence, the tricky T-Rex.
I think you'd have to be very brave to be a park keeper looking after 2 baby T-Rexes. They're going to be very hungry the entire time because they're growing so fast. So they need a lot of food to fuel that growth. So they're constantly looking out for an easy meal, and an unwary park keeper might make a very good snack for a young baby T-Rex.
But what was Nigel going to rescue? The team had to decide what the viewers at home would want to see in Prehistoric Park. They had the luxury of choosing from the past 500 million years.
Choosing the animals for the park, that was difficult and a real joy for me. But of course, we wanted the famous extinct creatures, the saber-toothed cats, T-Rex, of course, the ultimate predator.
T-Rex has to be the most famous dinosaur of all time simply because it's thought to be the largest ever predator that ever walked on land. Anything with teeth 30 centimetres long is bound to capture the imagination of people who are interested in the fantastic and the terrible.
We also thought we'd spin in a few different ones that people aren't so used to seeing. So, for instance, some of the latest research into dinosaurs is into dino birds found in China, and there's this crazy thing called a microraptor that's actually got 4 wings, you know. No one's ever seen these things realised in any form at all. So, for us, it was a great chance to say, look, this is brand new to science. Let's have a look at, you know, what they're like.
It was like a prehistoric detective agency in the production office. The researchers and directors were reading through all the latest papers and were speaking to the key experts in order to piece together the life and death of the stars of the show. Paleontologists have many different clues at their disposal.
So starting with the fossil record, we actually have the bones themselves, the actual skeletons of the animals, and we can look at those, describe them, and compare them with those of living animals. Then, as well as that direct kind of evidence, we also have a number of indirect lines of evidence coming from what are called trace fossils.
Trace fossils are non-body remains, such as footprints, eggs, burrows, and even prehistoric poo. Nigel travelled to Scotland to find out more.
Trackway there. Yeah, there's 2 rows of tracks here, one along here and the other one down here. This is 36 centimetres wide, so it must have been made by a large animal.
And I mean, this is a real Scottish treasure. There's not many of these in the world.
No, there's only a handful of these sorts of trackways in the world of this age. It was made by an animal called Arthropleura, which is a giant extinct millipede. I like to think of these things as paleo-polaroids, or snapshots in time of the activities of these animals. What we're seeing here, preserved on this surface, is just a fleeting moment of what happened 300 million years ago in this ancient swamp.
These ancient creepy crawlies were C-list celebrities. But this was about to change as they earned their newfound status as the rock stars of Prehistoric Park. But before any of these became 3D creatures, they were trapped in a 2D world on one man's drawing board.
At the beginning of the process, we sort of sit around in the office with our fevered imaginations and try and think, well, what's going to happen in,